watching on my throne. Created everything, but I called you my own. That land I gave you, put my name on it, my home. Yeah, that's my home. Israel, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. I made a promise, can't nobody take it. I chose to put you above all the nations. Out of your graves, I chose to awaken. We made a covenant, don't you forsake it. Come get protected while they going crazy. Israel, my firstborn, my baby. Israel, my firstborn, my baby. I woke you up in your land of captivity. I do not change, I want you to remember me. Laws and commandments, I gave you the remedy. Go read the testimonies for your memory. I sent them prophets, but you wasn't hearing me. I come to you if you really come near to me. I heard your cry, now it's time to take it of me. I'm the one got you from all of your enemies. Who you know open the sea. The waters are bitter, but I made it sweet. Case you ain't know how to swim, I'm your protector, so I made you walk on your feet. This a reminder you married to me. I just want you to be all I called you to be. They called you niggas, but I made you priests. I'm about to give you back everything. I'm sending plagues for you. I'm sending boys, drying up rivers. I leave them dead for you. Tell Pharaoh, let my people go. You heard what I said for you. Tell Pharaoh, let my people go. You heard what I said for you. For you, you only ever known. Y'all the main ones I'm watching on my throne. Created everything, but I called you my own. That land I gave you, put my name on it, my home. Yeah, that's my home. Israel, I'm the reason you in captivity. We made a covenant, you ain't remember me. You broke the covenant, I sent your enemies. Get out my lane since you wasn't fearing me. I'm the reason they put you in chains. I'm the reason they switched up your name. I'm the reason why you in the hood. I'm the reason of all your pain. I'm sending flows fast, daily. Think I don't love you, y'all my babies. Ain't my son, must be crazy. Come out that system, come out of that lane. They got that military, it would not phase me. It would not move me, it would not graze me. Remember Egypt, I did all that for my people. You only ever known. Y'all the main ones I'm watching on my throne. Created everything, but I called you my own. That land I gave you, put my name on it, my home. Yeah, that's my home. You only ever known. Y'all the main ones I'm watching on my throne. Created everything, but I called you my own. That land I gave you, put my name on it, my home. Yeah, that's my home. Israel.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Facebook Live, good morning, good morning. Breaking Strongholds Ministries, good morning, YouTube, Orlando, keeping it simple. How's everybody doing this morning? I hope everyone is doing well. I hope everyone has had a great day, a great week. I hope everything is going well with you all. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I hope everything is going well with you all. I hope the Most High has really truly blessed you over and abundantly with love, kindness, and joy. I hope that the Most High have really truly blessed your offsprings. I hope that the Most High really have truly blessed you over and abundantly with love, kindness. I hope He has really poured out His understanding upon your life. I hope He has really truly blessed you. I really truly have. My week has been it's been alright. I can't complain. I really cannot complain. Yeah. I really cannot. The Most High is really truly doing His will. You know, as much as I can know and understand, He's doing His will, and Only thing I can do is abide by His will and His purpose. And continue to do what He has called me to do. I have a lot of dreams. I mean, when I say I have a lot of dreams, I have a lot of dreams. And it's like Tuesday morning. I have to get up around 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. A lot of times. About 4 days out of the week, I'm up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Praying and meditating on what the Most High is saying. And sometimes what I do is I look at some things, I read some things, and I ask the Most High, what are you saying in this moment? What are you saying to me at this moment? What are you saying? And what He showed me this week is that, get ready for war. He showed me this week, get ready for war in my moment of prayer. And it could be a spiritual war, it could be physical war. It was saying get ready for war. And when I was looking at some stuff on my phone, right? Let me go ahead and get this out. Let me go ahead and get Exodus out. Do the Exodus and pray, and then I finish telling you. Exodus chapter 20 verses 1 through 17, and it reads, And El spake all these words, saying, I am Yahuwah thy El, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. And thou shalt have no other Els before me, and thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in the heavens above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. And thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I, Yahuwah thy El, am a jealous El, visiting the iniquities of the fathers upon the children, unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of Yahuwah thy El in vain, with Yahuwah will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy works, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of Yahuwah thy El. In it thou shalt not do any works, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days Yahuwah made the heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the 7th day. Wherefore Yahuwah blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy fathers and thy mothers, that thy days be long upon the land which Yahuwah thy El giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbors. And thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Let us pray. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us of our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine to your kingdom, power to your glory, forever and ever. So let it be. Amen, amen, amen. But let me get back to my dream, right? I be up around 2 or 3 o'clock, maybe 3 to 4 times a week. And I be in prayer and meditating on what the Most High is trying to talk to me about. And He'll show me some things and I read some stuff, and He'll show me some stuff and I read some stuff. And I ask Him, what are you saying to me? What are you saying to me? And this week He showed me, what He was telling me was that it's time for war. And it was time for war because of all the injustice that's been going on the earth, and it's just due time. It's time for war because He's trying to bring a correction upon the earth. And in order for Him to bring that correction, it has to do a physical judgment upon the earth. And a lot of people see judgment upon the earth, but they don't want to really truly acknowledge it, because the simple fact is it's horrifying to them. And they don't want to acknowledge that something major is going on, but they really don't understand. And I don't know how I'm going to do this today. I don't know how it's going to be, but I just ask that you bear with me, because he showed me so much stuff this morning, this week, and I just want to make sure I don't present you with too much information, but I want to make sure I give you what you need, because I want you to be prepared for the war. I want you to be prepared for what's going on. So he showed me that this week during my prayer, and then, I mean, I was like, man, okay, I understand it's time for war. So he even had me to do some things to even get ready for war. You know, and I'm like, huh? He's like, yeah, you need to do this. You need to do this. You need to do this. I said, all right, I did it. And my wife probably thought I was crazy when I did it. And I'm not going to tell y'all what I did, but I'm going to say what I did. He said, this is what you got to do. It's time for war. You got to do this. I said, okay, I did it. So last night when I woke up, when I went to sleep, I went to sleep and I had a dream that it was two nations that were surrounding the children of Israel. And I was trying to talk to the other nation. I said, if we're going to go to war, why we can't just come together and go to war with the nations that's trying to come against us? But not realizing that those other two nations was trying to come against the children of Israel, which is me. I was representing the children of Israel in a dream. And then I was like, okay, cool. And I was talking to the guy. He's like, no, that ain't the way it's supposed to be. That ain't the way it's going to be. Not knowing that he was going to come against me. And I asked the guy in my dream, I said, okay, so when do the war supposed to happen? He said, well, we're sending our families home on Tuesday. But he said the war's going to start on Wednesday. I said, okay. So I went and said, okay, with me, I said, well, we got to get out of here before the war starts, because the simple fact is, we don't want to be a part of the war. But knowing that that did not happen, because he attacked us during the time we was there, or he would try to attack me before I was trying to leave to go tell everybody else that it was time for war and we needed to leave. So he tried to attack me in my dream during that time. So it's like, man, wow. Okay. So it's like, in my dream, it was trying to tell me that, hey, we're at a time of war and we're close to it. Very close to war. And people around us going to be trying to attack us. And I was like, man, wow, you know. So it's kind of bothered me, and then I was asking the Most High, why are we going to war? And when I was looking at some of the things that has been placed on us, it's because of a lot of injustices that's on the earth. A lot of injustices that has been done to the children of Israel. Those people have to really pay for what they have done. And that is the sad part. That's the reality of it. People have to pay for what they do upon the earth. You cannot think that it's okay for you to do wrong to somebody and not have a recompense. And that is reality. Because I was reading this book right here called Germany Black Holocaust from 1890 to 1945. And when I say it says about Germany Black Holocaust, it's talking about when Germany went into Africa and started taking some of the land from the Africans. And how they carved up Africa. And they carved up Africa during the Berlin Conference. The European countries went into Africa to see how they was going to carve up Africa and see what countries would take what portion of Africa and use it for their benefit. And you know, one thing I had to ask questions on, right? I had to ask questions on why did it happen? How did they treat those people during the time of this carving of Africa? Because I wanted to get some understanding, and I can't read. I highlighted some stuff. I'm gonna read you a little bit. Let me read you a little bit. Okay. I don't even know where to start. I just read a little bit. It says, in an effort to stem the Europeans' intrusion, cleverly pitted the European powers against each other. These leaders exploited tensions between the British, the Germans, the Portuguese, using the commercial interests of each power as a tool of divisiveness. Not to be outwitted, however, the European powers responded by joining forces themselves and conveyed at the Berlin Conference of 1884 and 1885, with Germany taking the lead. The European haphazardly penciled in the present-day borders of Namibia and subsequently declared it a German colony. East German Africa, Tanzania, I'm mispronouncing it, but Tanzania, East Africa, Tanzania, and the West African countries Togo and Cameroon were also part of the unilateral arrangement wherein Africa had no say in the matter. As it was in actual practice for the years, Germany had already taken control of Namibia coast, and there's one source from the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington. Okay, it says that Germany controlled a large portion of the African continent between World War I. This included territories in Southwest Africa, East Africa, and the territories of Tongaland and the Cameroon. The German Empire had expansionist plans in Africa during the beginning of the century. Documents discovered in 1918 showed plans for all African territories south of the equator as a greater German empire. Germany lost its empire to Great Britain, France, and the Union of South Africa following the 1918 treaty. This treaty and how it factored largely in the entire scenario is discussed in greater details further throughout this book. In the meantime, Namibia developed progress, okay? But I want to go to some things on how they treated the Africans when they got and started controlling the Togo lands and the Cameroon. It says, Colonel German soldiers executed a blindfolded black child, and they shot him. And they blindfolded him, and they blindfolded him to a tree, and they shot him. That's what they did in Tongaland. It says this is a close. I'm not going to show you the photos. It says this is a close-up photo of corpse hanging from a tree. A common form of execution employed by colonial German soldiers who were accurately aware of the fact that former African slaves were also being hung in the United States by white supremacists there. And it says it's telling you in 1890 through 1945, how the Germans treated the Africans and how they treated the Africans during that Berlin Conference and how they carved it up. And they treated the Africans just the same as they was treating the Negroes in America during the same period. What Germans was doing to Africans is what the United States was doing to us. Nothing different. Both of them was identical. Both of us was going through horrific experiences during the time of our captivity, when German came in and took over Africa, and when the Europeans came over here and took over the United States. They starved the Africans. They hung them by a tree. They shot and killed them. They did all those things over in Africa, and they called the Germany Black Holocaust. That's part of the reason why we're getting ready to see the things that we're seeing, is because we have to understand that it's a recompense upon the earth right now. We cannot, the land's got to be cleansed by those who have made bloodshed. Let me see something. Okay, it says in Numbers 35 and 33. Okay. And this is the reason why we're getting ready to see all these things coming up on the earth, is because we have to understand it has been a lot of violence on the earth. Okay, and it says in Numbers 35 and 33, it says, "So ye shall not pollute the land wherein ye are, for blood it defiles the land, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it." So the same people who shedded the blood, their blood has to be shedded in order for the land to be cleansed. So what the Germans did to the Africans during 1890 and 1945, some things has to happen to Germany because of what they did to the Africans. Okay, in this book right here that I told you I was going to get, called The Destruction of Black Civilization, it also talks about how how everything was destroyed, how black civilization was destroyed, and why it was destroyed. And it's been a horrific experience because it's been a lot of bloodshed upon the earth. It really has been a lot of bloodshed upon the earth. It really has, and that's something we have to really look at. You know, that's something we really truly have to look at. But I want you to go ahead and turn your books to Ezekiel chapter 39. Ezekiel chapter 39. It really had truly been a lot of bloodshed upon this earth. And that's something that we really have to deal with. The bloodshed. We have to really deal with I have to find some more stuff, but it's just been weighing on me heavy this morning, that how the Germans treated the Africans in Africa, on the continent of Africa, is the same way we was treated here in America during the same time period. During the same time period, the way we was treated over here on this continent, the African was being treated the same way over there on their continent. That's horrific, man. It just kind of made me, it just saddened me a little bit. But I want us to understand this. In Genesis chapter 15, verse 13. And I want us to understand this. And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in the land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterwards shall they come out with great substance. I want us to understand this right here. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge. That means that the Most High would judge that nation who the children of Israel was serving. And he's going to judge them because of how they treated the children of Israel during the time of their captivity. And I want us to understand this right here. Judgment hit the earth in November of 2019. The beginning of judgment hit in November 2019. And now we're starting to see the repercussions of the judgment. Now we're starting to see the repercussions of judgment on the earth at this period in time. And that's something that we have to understand. Because those atrocities that happen on the continent of Africa, those atrocities that happen in America, those atrocities that happen in Australia. And I want us to understand that the Tasmanian people that lived in Australia, the Germans wiped them off the planet Earth. They no longer exist on the planet. The Tasmanian people that was in Australia before the encounter of the Germans wiped them off the face of the earth. They no longer exist. Those Tasmanian people that lived there, they no longer exist because of what the Germans did when they went into Australia. Then you got to also look at what happened in Canada. How the Aboriginals was wiped off their land, and how the Catholic Church went in there and destroyed all their heritage and killed off their offspring and buried them behind the churches and all of these things. So you have to understand that it has been some horrific events that happened on the earth. Not even talking about what happened over here in the Americas. Not even what happened, and not even recognizing what happened over here in the Americas. How the colonizers came over here and they basically destroyed the indigenous people. They destroyed them. They killed off them, or if they didn't kill them off, they made them run. They made them go through the Trail of Tears. And if they didn't go to the Trail of Tears, they had to get rid of the indigenous name and use a name like Negro, Mulatto, Colored, or Blacks. So when we're looking at all of that, we have to truly understand that it has really, truly been some horrific experiences on the earth. When I say it really have been some horrific experiences on the earth, it really, truly has. And that's something that we can't just look and say that, that the Most High he shouldn't come back and clean this up, because since the beginning of Cain killing Abel, it has been violence from that point on to now. But it has escalated to something that you can't even imagine. Okay, it says the Cushites or the Nubians ruled Egypt to 672 BC. Then the Assyrians ruled Egypt till 612 BC. Babylon ruled Egypt to 539 BC. Persia rules Egypt at 334 BC. It says Greek ruled Egypt until 146 BC. It says Rome ruled Egypt until 476 BC. Okay, and then it says then the Byzantine Empire, they continued to rule for until 1400s. Then after the Byzantine Empire ruled, the Ottoman Empire ruled, the Turkish Empire ruled until 1923. And then after the Ottoman Empire ruled, the United States started ruling the world. And so we had a period of time where each individual nation had a chance to rule the world for a good period of time. I mean, a good period of time. A lot of the times it was for 500 to 600 years or more. But during that time of ruling, they had to experience violence. They had to experience cultural change. They had to go through a lot of integration, meaning that when the Assyrians conquered the Hebrews, the Assyrians made the Hebrews adopt to their culture. And when they adopted into their culture, they had to get rid of their cultures. And the Assyrians separated them and made them integrate and made them change their whole thought process, just like the Babylonian during the time of Daniel. Babylon tried to change the culture of the Hebrews by first changing their names and then changing their eating habits and then changing their cultural practices. All of that has stemmed from the capturing of the Babylonians all the way up to now. So whenever a dominant culture goes into a country, they always goes in to try to change the culture of those countries. They always go and try to change that country's culture. That's why when the United States goes into a country, they say we're bringing democracy. When they say that we're bringing democracy, realizing that they have to kill that other country culture and bring in a culture that they want that country to have. But it has to have a lot to do with killing, manipulating, name change, and all of that. And it was so once you start to read and listen to history and research, it began to be mind-boggling, because in the process, it's a lot of killing involved. It's a lot of killing. It's a lot of death involved in all of this, and the Most High is tired of it. The Most High is tired of all of these things that are taking place. Every time it's a war, it's a minimum of 1 million people dying. A minimum. So when you look at the Iraq war, just a minimum of 1 million civilians died in that war. A minimum. Innocent bystanders. And the Most High is really tired of it, because at some point in time we have to have some type of peace. That's why Solomon came after David, because David was a violent ruler. He was stern, he was hard, but he was a man of war. But the Most High had to bring Solomon on the earth to bring a period of peace. No conflicts. He had to have the land had to be settled of peace for a long period of time. And that's something we got to understand, is that it's been too much chaos on the earth. It's been too much drama going on. And the Most High said, I'm tired of it, I'm sick of it. It's got to end. So that's why I said in Genesis chapter 15, verse 13, it says, and he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in the land that is not theirs, and they shall serve them and afflict them 400 years. The 400 years was up in November 2019. And then the punishment was up. Then the other punishment began. And then what I mean by the other punishment, again, it says, also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge. Now we're in the moment of judging. We're in the moment of the Most High is judging these nations for what they have done to humanity, to people. And that is something that we got to wrap our eyes around. That's something that we got to really truly deal with. And we cannot say, oh no, this is this, and oh no, this is that, oh no, this. No, it is what it is, and you have to deal with your reality. Let me read your article. And I ask you all to be patient with me today, because I hope you're still on Ezekiel chapter 39. And I'm going to go to it in a few minutes. And it's going to be key verses 8. Okay, but let me read you something, right? In the New York Times, in the day's date was January the 19th, 2023. And the article is read, American hit its debt limit, setting up bitter physical fight. Then it says that the Treasury Department said it will begin a series of accounting moves to keep the U.S. from breaching its borrowing cap and ask Congress to raise or suspend the debt limit. Meaning that Congress is going to go to, it says Congress is going to be asked, can they raise the debt ceiling so that they can continue to borrow money to keep the United States operating as a country? Because if they're not able to raise the debt ceiling, that means that they're not able to pay their bills. And when you're not able to pay your bills, countries are not going to be willing to deal with you. Okay? So now we're in the process of fighting the Congress, and they're fighting to try to get the debt ceiling raised, because we have reached our capacity on spending. So we're at this point again. Also, do you know what happened on Thursday? Do you know what happened on Thursday? Okay, this article came out. It says WUSF Public Media. WUSF Public Media. Bank of America say the problem with Zelle transaction is resolved. This came out on January 18th, 2023. Okay, I'm just going to read you a little bit. Customers turned to social media Wednesday to report serious issues with their Bank of America and Zelle account. Some users say money was missing from their account with no clear explanation from either company as to why. One user tweeted, "So cool how Bank of America magically disappeared a large Zelle transaction that had already posted, and I had used to pay bills. Now I'm extremely in debt in my checking and can't get a hold of them. Unbelievable." So, the same week that the United States reached this debt ceiling, where they didn't have any money in their account, it's the same week Bank of America closed some of their accounts from their customers. You understanding that when you put your money into the bank, that money is no longer yours. It's the bank that you put your money in. So they have the right to do whatever they want to do with that money. So if they wanted to close that account, they have the right to close that account because you allowed them to borrow that money for their usage. You allowed them to borrow that money for their usage. That longer is no longer yours. Okay? So The same week that we reached our debt ceiling is the same week that the Bank of America closed some accounts, understanding that Bank of America, in order for them to operate each day, they have to get money from the government, or they have to borrow money from the Treasury Department, so that they could be able to use the money and let it circulate through society. Those major banks do not have a whole lot of money within their in their banks at one time, so they have to send money out so they can let money come back in, so they can continue to allow the society to operate in its capacity. Okay, let me say something. Let me show you something else too. Okay, during the 1929 Great Depression, it says the Depression, many of the small banks had lent large portions of their assets for stock market speculations and were virtually put out of business overnight when the market crashed, and all 9,000 banks failed, taking with them $7 billion in depository assets. Okay. Also, it says, at 1 a.m. on Monday, March 6, President Roosevelt issued a proclamation of 2039 ordering the suspension of all banking transactions effective immediately. He had to take the oath of office only 36 hours early. So let me say something to you. During the Great Depression, President Roosevelt had to close all banks and all banking transactions, and where nobody could be able to go into the bank and get no money. If we look around today, we'll see that we're getting ready to hit a major crisis. We can see that the unemployment is going up. We can see unemployment going up. We can see inflation is happening. We can see that there's pestilence in the land, meaning people being sick. You see every time you turn around, you see people are passing out from cardiac arrest. And if you go on the CDC website, they'll be able to tell you why everybody's passing out, or why people are having such a difficulties in life right now. So that's the pestilence in the land. So when we start to look at the pestilence in the land, but let me read you something else. I'm just going to read you a little bit. Will a global depression trigger another world war? Okay, just going to read you a little bit. It says many measures 2020 is looking to be. Okay, this article came out of the FP, and it came out in 2020. Okay, and it says, will a global depression trigger another world war? Because we have to understand. This article came out May 13, 2020. Okay, we have to understand that when there is a major recession, if we go back, look at World War I, look at World War II, the reason why Germany was fighting and Hitler went in and did what he had to do in Germany, it was because there was a major crisis going on in Germany at the time. The people were suffering. So that's why Hitler rose to power, because he said he was coming to deliver the people of Germany from being oppressed. But the economy was bad. People could take a barrel of money. People was burning money because the money was so worthless. The money was so worthless. So they was burning money because just to be able to keep warm. Okay, it says, by many measures, 2020 is looking to be the worst year that the humankind has faced in many decades. We're in the midst of a pandemic that has already claimed more than 280,000 lives, sickened millions of people, and is certain to afflict millions more before it ends. The world economy is in free fall, with unemployment rising dramatically, trades and output plummeting, and no hopeful end in sight. A plague of locusts is back for a second time in Africa. And last week we learned about murderous killing wasps threatening the bees population in the United States. Americans have had a head in the sand president who prescribed potentially lethal nostrils and ignored the advice of his scientific advisors. Even if all those things magically disappear tomorrow, and they won't, we still face a looming long-term danger from climate change. Understanding that if we have a climate change issue, it is the identical same thing that happened in Egypt during the time of judgment on the Egyptians. The same thing that was going on in Egypt, where the hailstorms was happening in Egypt, which you can call that a climate change. It's the same thing that's going on right now to this day. We just not having a financial crisis. We're having a climate change crisis. Okay, and it says, given all that, we could possibly make things worse. Here's one possibility: war. War. It is therefore worth asking whether the combination of a pandemic and a major economic depression is making war more or less likely. What does history and theory tell us about that question? For starters, we know neither plagues nor depression make war impossible. World War I ended just as the 1918-1919 influenza was beginning to devastate the world. But that pandemic didn't stop the Russian Civil War. Okay, so the Great Depression that began in 1929 didn't prevent Japan from invading Hiroshima, Hawaii in 1931. It helped fuel the rise of fascism in 1930 and made World War II more likely. So if you think major wars simply can't happen during COVID-19 and the accompanying global recession, think again. So we have to understand that what is actually going on in the world today, and look at all the things that happen that's happening. Russia's getting ready to make this major move in Ukraine in the next couple of weeks. They're setting everything up for them to make this major move in Ukraine in the next couple of weeks. Okay? And I'm finna get ready to get into it in a minute. I'm finna get ready. It ain't gonna be long. I'm gonna be done in a few minutes. I want us to understand something though. Let us go to Ezekiel, because I want us to understand that we're at the most vulnerable point for a war because of the financial crisis, because of the sicknesses that is upon the land, because of the high employment rates, because of the banking system, and all because everything is going from now a fiat currency to a digital currency. Digital currency has a lot to do with everything else that's taking place. We have to understand that we have to go back and study we have to go back and study 1929 and what was actually going on in 1929. We really do. But I want to read something. It says in Ezekiel chapter 39 verses 8. This is the key verse. It says, "Behold, it is come and is done, saith Yahuwah. This is the day whereof I have spoken." us to understand something. He says, behold, it is come, and it is done, saith Yahuwah. This is the day whereof I have spoken. What he spoke in Genesis 15 and 13. And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and shall afflict them 400 years, and also that nation whom they shall serve, will I judge. This is the moment that the Most High is judging the nation. This is the moment that the Most High is judging the nations. Ezekiel 39, verses 1. And I want us to be able to, because I want us to be able to understand reality for what it is. And this is the hardest part about life. Because everybody want to stay in normalcy. Everybody want to go to heaven, but nobody want to die. Everybody want prosperity, but people don't want to do what it takes to have prosperity. Everybody wants something good out of life, but some of us don't want to do what it takes to have what it takes to get it. If that makes any sense. We want things to stop, but we participate in the things that keep us where we are. But it says, therefore thou son of man, prophesy against Gog, and say, thus saith Yahuwah, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. Gog is talking about a landmass. It's talking about Turkish. It's talking about over there with Ukraine and Russia. It's talking about all those areas over there. The Most High is telling you that he got a problem with those nations. And the reason why he got a problem with those nations and what they did in their past and what they did to the people. He said, I got a problem with you. He said, I got a problem with you, a serious problem with you. He says, I will turn thee back and leave but the sixth part of thee, and will cause thee to come up from the north part, and will bring thee upon the mountain of Israel. What the Most High is saying in this verse right here, he said, I'm going to have to deal with some of you. I'm going to deal with some of your people. The same way you dealt with my people is the same way that I'm going to deal with your people. You brought war on my people and you did what you did to my people. Now I'm going to have to bring war to your people and do the same thing to your people that you did to my people. Mm-hmm. And that is the sad part about reality, is that a lot of us really don't want to accept it. We want to ignore it. We want to ignore the elephant in the room. We don't want to deal with the elephant in the room. But this is something that we got to deal with. I don't know if I told you the title of the text today. The title of the teaching today is, It is Time for War, Get Prepared. Okay? It's time for war, get prepared. And it says, I will turn thee back and leave but the sixth part of thee. And I will cause thee to come up from the north part, and I will bring thee upon the mountain of Israel. Listen to this. It says, I will smite thy bow out of thy left hand, and I will cause thy arrows to fall out of thy right hand. The reason why he said, I'm going to smite thy bow out of thy left hand and cause thy arrows to fall out of thy right hand, because that's how they conquered everybody. That's how they was able to defeat everybody who they encountered, because of they was a men of war. They was barbarians. They were savages. They did whatever they had to do to conquer the people. They did whatever they had to do to conquer the people. Okay? I'm going to go to Jeremiah chapter 21, verses 4 through 5. It says, then said Jeremiah chapter 21, verses 4 through 5. But I'm going to verse 3 first. And I hope y'all can excuse me today, but it's just so much on my mind that it's unbelievable. It says, then in Jeremiah chapter 21, verse 3, it says, then said Jeremiah to them, Thus shall ye say to Ezekiel. No, that is Zedekiah. Zedekiah. Thus saith Yahuwah of Israel, Behold, I will turn back the weapons of war that is in your hand, wherewith ye fight against the king of Babylon, and against the Chaldeans, which besiege you without the walls, and I will assemble them into the midst of this city. And I myself will fight against you with an outstretched hand and with a strong arm, even in anger and fierce and great wrath. And I will smite the inhabitants of this city, both man and beast, and they shall die of a great pestilence. Let me read it. And afterwards saith Yahuwah, I will deliver Zedekiah, king of Judah, and his servants and the people, and such are left in this city from the pestilence and from the sword and from the famine into the hands of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and into the hands of their enemies, into the hands of those that seek their life, and he shall smite them with the edge of the sword, and he shall not spare them, neither have pity nor mercy. The same thing that happened to us is getting ready to happen over there in Russia, in Ukraine. All the weapons that all the weapons that's leaving the United States is going over there to help fight. The United States, how they conquer people through their financial industry. We in $32 or $33 trillion in debt. And they want to continue to not raise the debt. They want to continue to raise the debt limit. How can some country get out of a $31 trillion debt if you want to continue to raise the debt limit, the debt ceiling? How can you get out of $31 trillion worth of debt when you can't even afford to pay the bills that you have? So you got to constantly raise the debt limit just for you to survive. Then we go to Psalms 76, 3 through 6. It said, there break he the arrows of the bow, the shield and the sword and the battle. Thou art more glorious in excellence than the mountain of prey. The shrouded heart are spoiled. They have slept their sleep. And none of the men of might have found their hands. At thy rebuke, O El of Jacob, both the chariots and horses are cast into a dead sleep. What it's saying is the Most High have really taken the arrows, they have taken the weapons away for them to be able to fight the war. The Most High have done this. The Most High have broken the arrows. The Most High have broken the sword. The Most High have made, if you look at it today, right? Germany, France, the United States, Canada, Australia. Listen to what I just said. Germany, France, Canada, Australia, and the United States are all sending weapons over there to Ukraine to help Ukraine fight the war against Russia. But these same countries during the 1890 through 1945 Berlin Conference destroyed Africa. So now what the Most High is doing is disarming them from being able to even have the abilities to fight against someone. Because they're sending all their weapons over there to Ukraine. And he's doing that because of what they did to the indigenous people of the land. The United States is sending their most powerful weapons over to Ukraine to help them fight off Russia. Ukraine are sending some of their soldiers to the United States to get trained so that they can go back over there and learn how to fight against Russia. But the Most High is removing all of these weapons off the indigenous people land. And some people can't even see it because they're looking at it from a physical thing, and it's not. All the weapons are being moved. Every time you turn around, if you look at these bills that they're signing, or we're going to send $30 billion, or we're going to send $25 billion, or we're going to send $50 billion, in those packages is a lot of weapons. There's a lot of weapons going over there. They're leaving the United States and going over there to Ukraine. Okay, in verse 3. It says, I will smite thy bows out of thy left hand and cause thy arrows to fall out of thy right hand. Thou shalt fall upon the mountain of Israel, thou and all thy band, and the people that is with thee. I will give thee unto the ravens, birds of every sort, and to the beasts of the field to be devoured. Okay, let us go to verse 30. Let us go to the top of that verse. It says, thou shalt fall upon the mountain of Israel. That means that thou shalt die. Thou shalt be deleted. Thou shalt fall by the edge of the sword. All these nations, you can see it if you have a spiritual eye, if you can actually ask the Most High to let you truly see what's going on. We have to understand that Ukraine is the reason for Magog and Magog. That's the land of Gog and Magog, right? Okay, that is the source. But then you got to look at who's supporting the source. You got Germany, France, Canada, Australia, United States. All those countries had something to do with the destruction of black civilization. Also, the German Black Holocaust. All those countries, and the Berlin Conference, all those countries had something to do with the destruction of the black civilization. So when you look at that, and you see that the Most High is working, first, in order to make those countries defenseless, he has to what? I will smite thy bows out of thy left hand and cause thy arrows to fall out of thy right hand. He got to make these countries defenseless in order for them not to defend themselves against what he's finna get ready to bring on the earth. He had to make these countries defenseless so that they can't even fight back. Because what they're doing is getting what they have been giving out. These countries have been dominating nations and people for a long period of time. Like I told you, Canada went up there and destroyed the indigenous. The Englishmen came over here and destroyed the Americas. The Australians was destroyed by the Germans. French, Portugal, Spain, and all of that. went down to Africa and destroyed them. Verse 6. Verse 5. And it says, thou shalt fall upon the open field. Thou shalt be killed upon the open field, for I have spoken it, saith Yahuwah. Listen, it says, I will set a fire on Magog, and among them that dwell carelessly in the isles, and they shall know that I am Yahuwah. What Most High is finna get ready to do, why he had to do it in the open field. And if we look at the terrain in Ukraine and Russia, it's basically an open field where everybody can be seen. Everything can be identified. It's basically an open field where you can really see the judgment upon the land. You can see that war is really taking place. If you look at what's going on in Ukraine and Russia, it's basically an open field. It's a battlefield. If you look at it from that perspective, it's basically open. It's not heavily populated. And that is the hard part about reality, is if we don't look at these things and pray on them and ask the Most High to really tell us, show us how can we really see it, we'll miss it. Let us go to Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 21. Listen to this. You all need to go on the CDC website and do some research on the information that has been coming out in the last couple of weeks. It says, I will cause for a sword against him throughout all my mountains, saith Yahuwah El. Every man's sword shall be against his brother. And I will plead against him with pestilence and with blood, and I rain upon him and upon his bands, his armies, and upon many people that are with him. An overflowing rain and great hailstones, fire, and brimstones. Thus will I magnify myself and sanctify myself, and I will make known in the eyes of many nations that they shall know that I am Yahuwah. See, what people think they're doing behind closed doors, the Most High is going to bring it out in the open. See how the Germany, France, Portugal, Spain, the U.S., and all those countries got divided up Africa. They did it behind closed doors in the Berlin Conference. So what they did behind closed doors is what the Most High is going to do in open doors. He's going to do it out in the public. That's why he said in the open field. He's going to let everybody see what he's doing. He's not going to hide it from nobody. Only people who's not going to see it is because those people who don't want to see it. Let me go to Ezekiel chapter 29. Verse 5. It says, Ezekiel chapter 29 verse 5, it says, I will leave thee thrown into the wilderness, thee and all the fish of thy rivers. Thou shalt fall upon the open field. Thou shalt not be brought together nor gathered. I have given thee for meat to the beasts of the field and to the fowls of the heaven. What he's saying is so many people going to be on the battlefield that they're not going to be able to collect them. And what's going to have to happen is the animals and the birds and the beasts of the field are going to have to come in, take care of them. Because What's going to happen this year? It's going to be very similar to Great Depression of 1929. It's going to be high unemployment. It's going to be violence. It's going to be pestilence, people being sick. It's going to be famine. And it's going to be war. That's what's going to be on the earth this year. I remember 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, Wells Fargo was shutting down people's bank accounts for 4 or 5 days or 2 or 3 days because they said that it was having issues. They was getting prepared for that process was coming. And I would have students at the time, and I would ask this guy, hey man, you don't mind that the bank shut down for a couple of days? Because, no, I don't mind, because they never thought anything about it. But now, it was Wells Fargo, now it's Bank of America, and people are panicking going into the banks. What we're getting ready to see on this earth is something that we never could imagine. And that is the hardest part about it, is that I'm so disturbed because sometimes people don't think what you reap, what you sow is what you reap. Sometimes people don't let that consciously. And then sometimes people don't think that this is real. That this is real. It's not real from, it's real, but it's not, it's real, but it's not a religion book, a religious book. It's real from a historical and a present and a future book. It's a prophecy book. It's so many categories within this book that you just can't say it is a religious book, because you're limiting the Most High in the aspects of how you see Him. Because the church have lied to us on so many levels that we really can't see the Most High if we just see it from a religious aspect. But what we getting ready to go through this year, it's going to be horrific for some people. It's going to be more job layoffs. It's going to be more high unemployment. It's going to be more food inflations. It's going to be more crimes in the streets. It's going to be more people to be sick. This is our reality. This is what we got to get ready to deal with. And it's hard for me because I know that it's time for war. How am I getting prepared? Didn't I get prepared? Didn't I show y'all going to get prepared this week? Huh?
Yes.
I'm like, man, I was dog tired Thursday, but I had to do what he asked me to do. But I'm gonna read a little bit more. Go back to Ezekiel 38. I'm jacked up, being honest with you. I mean, Ezekiel chapter 39. I'm jacked up really because I don't really think we understand what's on the horizon. If you haven't stored up food for 6 months, you don't have much time. If you haven't had no water in your house, and you don't have no water in your house, or you don't have no means to purify no water, you don't have much time. If you don't have no first aid, if you don't know how to do no first aid, if you don't have any type of medical, if you have medical care, medical issues, if you don't have no medications for it, you're about out of time. If you don't have nothing to protect yourself with, You're about out of time. Yes, you can keep continuing to ignore the writing on the wall. But it says in Genesis 15:13, will I judge? If you go back and study what happened in Egypt, it's the same thing that's happening now. But they just call it climate change. But hell and pestilence, they call it climate change, but hell was coming out. The animal was dying. They saw over 3,000 cows that died one day. Last week I saw fish just coming up out of the water dead. People were having boils and getting sick. What you think happening now when these people are falling out dead? The water was contaminated. It was turned red. You can't really drink water now without a filter. You better understand something. You better understand what's going on. Then it says in verse 6 in Ezekiel 39. I got a few more minutes and I'm done. It says, and I will send a fire on Magog, and among them that dwell carelessly in the isles, and they shall know that I am Yahuwah. So will I make my holy name known in the midst of my people Israel, and I will not let them pollute my holy name anymore. And the heathen shall know that I am Yahuwah, the Holy One in Israel. Behold, it is come, it is done, saith Yahuwah El. This is the day whereof I have spoken. Let us go to chapter 7 in Ezekiel. And I'm done. See, everybody has to get judged for their misdeeds. Everybody has to go through some issues. Everybody has to go through some stuff. It says also, starting with, I go verse 1 through 10. It says, moreover, the word of Yahuwah came out unto me, saying, also, thou son of man, thus saith Yahuwah El unto the land of Israel, an end, the end is come upon the what? Four corners of the earth. If we look at it, it's not people just in America that's having issues. It's not people just in Australia having issues. It's not just people in Canada having issues. It's not just people in Europe having issues. The only people that's really not having issues are people in Africa. But everybody else is having cardiac arrest issues to the four corners of the earth. It says, now is the end come upon thee, and I will send my anger upon thee, and will judge thee according to thy ways, and will recompense upon thee all thy abominations. Listen to that. Listen to that. It says, and will recompense upon thee all thy abominations. And my eye shall not spare thee, neither will I have pity, but I will recompense thy ways upon thee, and thy abominations shall be in the midst of thee, and ye shall know that I am Yahuwah. Thus saith Yahuwah El, an evil and only evil, behold, is come. Listen to that. Thus says Yahuwah El, an evil and only evil, behold, is come. An end is come. The end is come. It watches for thee. Behold, it is come. The morning is come unto thee, thou that dwell in the land. The time is come. The day of trouble is near, and not the sounding against the mountains. Now will I surely pour out my fury upon thee, and accomplish my anger upon thee, and I will judge thee according to thy ways. The Black Holocaust, Germany Black Holocaust, the destruction of black civilization. All this has to come to an end. All of it has to be a recompense. And I will recompense thee for all thy abominations, and my eyes shall not spare, neither will I have pity. I will recompense according to thy ways, and thy abominations that are in the midst of thee, ye shall know that I am Yahuwah that smith. Behold the day, behold it is come, the morning goes forth, the rod hath blossomed, pride hath budded. Violence is risen up into a rod of wickedness. None of them shall remain, nor of their multitude, nor any of theirs, neither shall there be wailing for them. Romans chapter 11. This is for you, Israel. This is for you. This is for you, Israel. This is the line of hope. Because what you're getting ready to see upon the earth, this is for you, Israel. And those Gentiles who attach themselves to Israel. And this, as I say then, has El cast away his people Israel? God forbid. For I am an Israelite of the seed of Abraham, out of the tribe of Benjamin. God has not cast away his people, which he foreknew. Ye not what the scripture said of Elijah, how he maketh intercessions to God against Israel, saying, Lord, they have killed thy prophets and dug down thy altars, and I am left alone, and they seek my life. But what said answer of God unto him? I have reserved to myself 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee to the image of Baal. Even so then at this present time also there is a remnant according to the election of grace. And if by grace then it is no work, there is no more work. Otherwise grace is no more grace. But if be of work, then it is no more grace. Otherwise work is no more work. What then? Israel has not attained that which he seeketh for, but the election has attained it, and the rest was blind. The word it means grace. According as it is written, God has given them the spirit of slumber, eyes that they should not see, ears that they should not hear. That's why I asked for eyes to see, ears to hear. Until this day. And David said, let their tables be more a snare and a trap, and a stumbling block, a recompense unto them. Let their eyes be darkened, that they may not see, and bow down their back always. Okay, and it says, I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? God forbid. But rather through their fall, salvation is coming to the Gentiles, for to provoke them to jealousy. Now, if the fall of them be the riches of the world, and the diminishing of them the riches of the Gentiles, how much more their fullness? For I speak to you Gentiles. Listen to this. For I speak to you Gentiles. I speak to you Gentiles. Inasmuch as I am an apostle of the Gentile, I magnify my office. If by any means I may provoke to immolations them which are my flesh, Israelites, and might save some of them. For if the casting away be the reconciling of the world, what shall the receiving of them be but life from the dead? For if the first fruit be holy, the lump is also holy. If the root be holy, so are the branches. And if some of the branches be broken off, thou being a wild olive tree, wroth grafted in among them, and with them partakers of the roots and fatness of the olive tree. Boast not against the branches. Boast not against the Israelites. But if thou boast, thou bearest not the root, but the root thee. Thou wilt not say then the branches were broken off, that might be grafted in. Well, because of the unbelief they were broken off. And thou standest by faith, but not high-minded, but fear. But if God spare not the natural branches, take heed, lest he also spare not thee. Behold, therefore, the goodness of severity of God, the severity of God on them which fell, the severity but towards thee. Goodness, if thou continue in his goodness, otherwise thou also shall be cut off. And I'm done with this one. And they also, if they abide not still in unbelief, shall be grafted in. For God is able to graft in them again. For if thou wrath cut off of the olive tree, which is wild by nature, and wrath grafted in contrary to the nature in a good olive tree, how much more shall these, which be the natural branches, be grafted into their own olive tree? What am I saying? So shall all Israel be saved. It is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob. For this is my covenant to them, when I shall take away their sins, as concerning the gospel. They are enemies for your sake, but as touching the elections, they are beloved for the Father's sake. What am I saying? By the grace of the Most High right now, Israel will be saved. Those people who are practicing the Sabbath, those people who are really doing the will of the Most High, going to be saved. Because what you're getting ready to see on the earth is some horrific stuff. You're finna see some pestilence. You're finna see some financial crisis. You finna see some wars. You see some famines. You finna see a lot of stuff on the land. But through faith and through your works, you can be protected. You can be protected. And it's time for war. Get prepared. Not just physically, but spiritually. Not just spiritually, physically as well. Because this is just the beginning. Wells Fargo did it. And that Bank of America is doing it. A carton of eggs costs $8. Food prices are soaring. People are falling out. A lot of things are happening on the earth. The only thing that really make it go bad is this war that's getting ready to kick off over there in Ukraine, which will affect the whole world. Because those are the areas with the wheat. And they have not been exporting wheat around the world. So let me pray so you can go. Abba, as we come to you today, we thank you, we bless you, we praise you, give you all the honor and the glory. Abba, we thank you for everything that you have done, what you continue to do. Abba, we just thank you for letting us be able to see the way you want us to see, hear the way you want us to hear, and speak the way you want us to speak. Abba, we see the crisis, we see the famine, we see the pestilence, we see the death, we see the contamination, we see the weather changing, we see the falling away.
We see all these things happening, Abba. We just ask that you help us and guide us and lead us. A lot of people are scared, Abba. A lot of people are frightened. Not knowing what to do, not knowing how to do it. Not knowing where to go, who to talk to because of fear that's overtaken them. But Abba, at this time, we ask that you strengthen those people and let them seek righteous advice. Let them get on their knees and pray. Let them seek your opinion. Let them seek your words of wisdom.